Today's class, When Your Health Matters, the class designed to empower you to better health through knowledge and education. And I'm your host, Dr. Richard Huntoon from Advanced Alternative Medicine Center. We're located at 138 Canal Street in Pooler Park, that is in Pooler, Georgia. We're in Suite 404 of Building 400. If you'd like to stop into the office, happy to see you here. We're still coming out and shaking off the last 20 months of COVID-19. That's why we're doing these classes via video as opposed to in person. But I'm happy to do classes in person. I'm happy for you to stop in to the office in person. I'll probably do a brief evaluation on you just out of the curiosity that I have with regards to what's going on with your health. And I'm happy to help you with any health issues that you have. Short of stopping into my office, the next best way to get a hold of me would be to call my cell phone directly at area code 845-561-2225. Again, 845-561-2225. That is my cell phone. I will be the one answering the phone 99% of the time. Please do not text that phone, as that phone is not equipped to receive texts. I will never get it. I will never get back to you, and that would defeat the purpose of you reaching out. But if you do want to use the texting type mentality, you can always email me directly at docrick, D-O-C-R-I-C-K, docrick@spineboy.com. Whether you stop in, whether you call, or whether you email me, it's my pleasure to help you to better understanding with the concerns that you have regarding your health. This particular class is helping you to appreciate the importance of your blood pressure, how to take your blood pressure, how to make sure that your blood pressure is being taken completely, and what information you can derive from your blood pressure. About a month or so ago, maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago, we did a class on the big high blood pressure myth. And we may have covered some of the information here today, but I wanted to just make this class specifically about how to have your blood pressure taken, or how to take your blood pressure correctly, and how to interpret the numbers correctly. And so, what does blood pressure tell us? Again, that depends on if you take it partially or if you take it totally. By this I mean, do you have it taken in one position, usually seated in the doctor's office, or do you have it taken in 3 positions? Many doctors' offices only take it in the one position, and taking your blood pressure in one position limits the information that they understand about what's going on with your health and blood pressure, etc. So if they take your blood pressure seated, and that's the only position they take it in, then they understand what your blood pressure is doing while you're seated. Also will help you to understand what the pulse pressure is, again, when you're seated. The pulse pressure is determined by taking the first number, which is known as your systolic blood pressure. That's the upper number, the higher number, and then you subtract the lower number, which is your diastolic pressure. And the difference between those two is called your pulse pressure. Pulse pressure is the amount of pressure on your heart while your heart is beating and relaxed. It's a measurement derived, again, when you determine the difference between the upper number and the lower number. And that difference, ideally, we'd like to be somewhere between 30 and 50. If it's above 50, then that's creating too much stress, too much work on the heart. If it's less than 30, that it creates other issues related to there not being enough relaxation time between beats, and the amount of pressure between the beating of the heart and the relaxing filling of the heart. So if your blood pressure is 120 over 80, you take 120, subtract 80, you get 40. 40 is a very good pulse pressure. If your blood pressure is 160 over 80, that's not so good, because your systolic is up at 160, and if you subtract the diastolic of 80, then you get a pulse pressure of 80. That's a lot of work for the heart to do between maximum contraction and maximum relaxation. So we want those numbers to be closer together. And again, so you need to make sure that your pulse pressure is between 30 and 50 when you take your blood pressure, but you want to take your blood pressure in 3 positions. And why would you want to do it in 3 positions? Well, you want to do it in a seated position, And while the blood pressure cuff is still on your arm, you want to immediately do it a second time after you stand up. And after you've taken it a second time upon standing up, you want to take it again a third time immediately after the standing up one with the person laying down. So you actually change the stress on the body in 3 different positions: seated, standing, and then laying down. And your blood pressure, if you're healthy, should respond by going up 5 to 15 points from seated to standing, and then it should go down whatever it went up from seated to standing, from standing to laying down. So if it went from 120 over 80 to, let's say, 130 over 85, that's not a bad response. And then if you go from the 130 over 85 and you lay down, and it should go back down to 120 over 80. If it's not doing that, there's a very common situation that a lot of people run into where they get a dumping syndrome when they go from seated to standing. If they get up too quickly, they get a little bit lightheaded and a little bit woozy for a number of seconds before the lights fully come back on, and then they figure that they can move forward. That's a dumping syndrome. That's called Ragland's sign. And so when you go from seated to standing, instead of your blood pressure going up, 5 to 15 points, it actually goes down. And what that is that's gravity not allowing the blood within the system to be pumped up to the head. The blood pressure dumps because of the force of gravity. Your adrenals not responding appropriately, and you get lightheaded and woozy. Again, that's an indication that your adrenals are not responding to the simple stress of gravity in a normal fashion. This indicates that you have adrenal depletion and that your blood pressure isn't being properly regulated by the hormones secreted by the adrenal system, as compounded through the functioning of your kidneys. And that ends up putting stress in your blood pressure system. So we want to make sure that when you go from seated to standing, that your blood pressure goes up 5 to 15 points, and when you lay down, it goes back down 5 to 15 points. And you want to see that happens as a regular basis. And so when you go to the doctor, you want to ask the doctor to take your blood pressure in those 3 positions: seated, standing, and then laying down. And you want to know what those numbers are. If the nurse, the physician's assistant, even the doctor, if they're only taking it while you're seated, ask what the numbers were so that you can do some quick math to understand what your pulse pressure is. And as long as your pulse pressure is between 30 and 50, then your heart is not really under a lot of duress. And that's actually a good thing. So you want to get a sense of what your systolic pressure is, the first number, what your diastolic pressure is, what the difference is between the two. That's called pulse pressure. But you want to take your blood pressure in 3 positions: seated, then standing, then laying down. And you want to have that done every time you go to the doctor. And if the nurse or the physician's assistant or even the doctor is asking you, well, why do you want it in 3 positions? Give them this understanding so that they can actually have more healthful information specifically about you. And if you have any questions, by all means, please get a hold of me. My office is located at 138 Canal Street in Pooler Park. We're in Suite 404 of Building 400. You can call me directly at area code 845-561-2225, or you can email me directly at docrick@spineboy.com. Regardless of what's going on with your health, I'm happy to help you. I'm happy to give you the understanding that you need so that you get to be back in control of your health, as opposed to outsourcing it either through medication or other medical procedures. So hope you've learned something today. I appreciate you tuning in. I'm going to ask you to tune back in next week. Same health time, same health station. This is Dr. Richard Untune from Advanced Alternative Medicine Center saying, I appreciate you being in class this week and look forward to delivering another class next week. Thanks again.